Hello everybody, my name is Alan, I'm from Sauber-Lab and today will be another video that how we can configure our server in relationship of a Raspberry Pi. In this video I will compare about Motherboard and I will tell a little bit more about Raspberry Pi, what you can do with it and what you need to have in mind in the way to choose the best hardware for your needs. In this case, the motherboard is one of the most important part of the computer because after the CPU, this one will integrate all your system and will make it work. So, this reason that will be quite key point. Other thing, in this video we're gonna show, or at least it's more focused for home users that want to create the home lab. If you are an IT guy that work in a company, it's pointless to follow this video because it will not be applicable for you. Consider that normally in the companies they will look for redundancy and will look for a really stable system with a warranty. And in this case it's really basic and will not fit for your needs. But anyway, if you like this idea and want to learn a little bit more about it, we're gonna show in this video. But first of all, don't forget to leave your like, consider to subscribe for the channel and let's understand a little bit more about it. So before we start to explain a little bit more about a motherboard for a computer, we're gonna go for the basics. Let's try to understand what we have in this motherboard and why we need to have those and why it's useful. So I'm not explain this one because I have this case and that will not be so clear for you. So let's go for this website. In the Raspberry Pi website, they explain that this connection is the Gigabyte network connection. You have a USB 3, you have USB 2, you have two micro HDMI ports where you can connect some display. You have your power source where it's your USB-C. And that you have your CPU and your RAM memory. Other thing, you have all those ports that's really useful if you want to do some kind of application that you want to turn on or turn off some ports or get some signal against of this one. Also you have a lots of heads that you can put in this location or use the USB as well to do different applications, but it's not the subject for this video. So you have those limited ports that you can use. Okay, it's great to have two display ports that you can connect up to 4K displays, but you're never gonna use it because the idea is to make a home server. And this server normally will be in your garage or will be in your room that's not necessarily needed to have a screen connect for it. This is because most of the time you're gonna use the internet to connect it. You're gonna internet by SSH or you're gonna connect by web browser. So this idea to have a display port will not affect so much our performance or our choose. So have this one in mind. Now we're gonna go for some basic, the format of our motherboard. This picture that I found on the internet that was really interesting. I'm not sure which website that I find, but I think that's quite interesting. This one, they compare the three sizes of the motherboard. The first one, mini ATX, where it's really limited the quantity of RAM memory and the quantity of PCI Express or PCI connection that you have. In this case, you have only two slots of RAM memory. You have your slot for your CPU and also you have only one slot for PCI Express. I don't see any connection for NVMe. Maybe they have, maybe they don't have. If I go a little bit bigger option, I have the micro ATX, and this micro ATX, you have more ports, you have more PCI connections, you have more RAM slots that you can connect. And if you go for distant ATX, you have everything. You have more RAM memory, you have more slots for PCI Express, you have more slots for PCI in general, you have more connections for NVMe, and then you have all these options. When I was considering to make this video, I was not sure which one that's more important. I explained first the case that you need to choose or the motherboard that you need to choose, and definitely it's the motherboard. Because the case you have lots of options, you have different size, you can do some modification in the case, you can tweak some things, but when you go for your motherboard, you need to know how much RAM slots that you have, how many SATA slots that you have, how many connections of PCI that you have, and other things that is really important and that will affect your performance and also the usability for your system. So this one is more important. Motherboard, this reason that is coming first. Also, on the size of the motherboard, it's one point, but it's not the biggest point. The biggest one is to decide what kind of socket that you have. Because if you're using the Intel socket, you cannot put a ADM CPU. And if you use an ADM CPU, you cannot put an Intel socket and vice versa. Also, the revision or what's a kind of compatibility that your socket is allowed. If you're using a real old motherboard, you cannot put a newer generation of CPU. And if you're using a really new CPU, you need to have a really new motherboard. This one happens more often for Intel than ADM. ADM, you have a little bit more back compatibility, not everything, but you have a little bit more back compatibility. But then you're gonna ask, Alan, how can I identify which one is which? And it's quite simple. Here this screen, it's a socket for an Intel CPU. If you look, all the pins is up. So the CPU for Intel will be flat, and that's all those will be connection against of the CPU. And if I go for a ADM CPU, they are all down. So all you have a pins that will go out for your motherboard and that will connect for this one. I cannot tell which one that's better, if it's Intel socket or ADM socket. It's only which kind of CPU that you're gonna choose. If you're gonna go Intel, you need to choose Intel socket. If you go for ADM, you need to choose ADM socket. So it doesn't matter which one it's work better or which one that's faster, which one that's lower, which one give a better performance, because what's important will be compatible for your CPU. Otherwise, it's pointless to have a motherboard that don't connect any CPU for that. So have they understand what's the difference of both CPUs. Now I was looking internet only to search some information, and I look the first option that come to my mind. I'm not added this website, only find it only for example. If I look for our Intel i3 that we talked before, here it's one option that they give. It's a micro 8X, where it's a little bit limited the quantity of slots or RAM memory that you have, and that it's quite cheap as well. If I expand a little bit the picture, yes, I can do it. So here I have only 2 slots of RAM memory. I have my socket. I believe that's Intel socket, otherwise you will not be able to connect to your Intel CPU. If I go a little bit down, you have one connection of NVMe and another one for Wi-Fi, so you can only connect one NVMe in this case. You have one PCI, and you have one PCI Express, and that's it. If you look here, you have only 4 connections of SATA, so you can only connect basically 4 CPUs for this system. And here is the standard power supply for it. So it's what limitation that I told for Marco 80X. If I look here, it's really limited. Also, you have a few issues with it. But remember, this support a 12th generation processor. So if you're looking for the 121000, you need to have compatible for this option. If I look for this one, it's another motherboard. This one is a standard size, full size, and if I open this picture, they already have more features. So if I open here, you have 4 connections for RAM. You have at least 3 NVMe connections, where potentially you can have one VME connect for your US and more 2 work as a mirror for your Docker application or any other application that you need to have a fast connection. And then you can have all your hard drives connecting these connections. Also in this way, you have a lots of different PCI connection. You have those PCIs here that you can get your graphic card, you can have internet connection, and you still have more 1 or 2 extra for any kind of application that you want or any kind of PCI that you want to connect. And that I look for this website, they say that it's compatible for this kind of socket. I don't know if it will be exactly the same socket that I was looking, but if I come here, they say that this one is compatible for the 12th generation, so should be able to use the i3 in this case. One thing that I was surprised is that it's DDR5. In our case, DDR5 will not be advanceable because it will cost more. will have more speed, but will cost more. And in the case, our server will not see so much effect on it, will not get a really extra performance only because it's DDI5 and will have 3640 megahertz. Will be interesting for have more capacity. For this reason, maybe it will be better you look for DDR4. Of course, 12th generation, you're not gonna find DDR3, but at least DDR4 you're gonna be able to do it, and that's the run memory will be cheap. Will be a little bit slower, but you can have a cheap run memory. So remember, we talk about first the factor of your motherboard, the size that you want to be. My advice, look for the standard ATX size. If you really need a small one, you go for a small one, but you want to have as many connection or as many options to upgrade as possible. Also, the CPU socket, and if it's compatible for the kind of CPU that you're looking, this reason that it's important to have first choose what kind of CPU that you want. After this one, the kind of run memory that you want, preferably DDR4, but if you want to spend a little bit more for DDR5, yes, you can do it, but you're not gonna see so much difference in relationship of speed that you're gonna have. After this one, you need to look how many PCI that you want to have as slot, how many boards or how many extra add-ons that you want to have. Internet connection, you're gonna need to have one extra. If you want to have a graphic card connect, at least 2. If you want to have a RAID controller or a SATA extender, at least 3. And continue on until you look for how many cards that you intend to have. And also it's good to have a little bit extra in the case that in the future you want to upgrade your system. All the features that you want, in this case will not make so much difference. Only thing that will be interesting is to look for a motherboard that have more SATA connections. So I explained a little bit about it, but I cannot explain each case because each case will be a little bit different. If you are looking for a little bit old CPU, you're gonna have a motherboard that's compatible for that CPU and that will have that extra features dedicated for that CPU. If you're looking for a new CPU or ADM CPU, will have different connections or different features that will be more suitable for that one. Only thing that you need to have in mind is how many extra features that you will need or what's the key features that I need for my applications. In my opinion, SATA and PCI Express or PCI will be the more important things that you need to consider. After this one will be how many slots of run memory and then if you have Wi-Fi, if you have, and then will be the list of things that you need to worry about it. So in this video we explain a bit more about motherboard. I hope that you like this video. If you like, don't forget to leave your like, consider to subscribe for the channel, and see you next time. Bye.